was talented at one time.
Have you been drawing? I mean, have you been able to doodle and whatnot all your life, and you kind of just evolved on this, or?
Yeah. So I started drawing in high school, and then it really came into kind of play when into play when I was doing when I was in the army.
Yeah.
Just some guys took up guitar, some guys took up you know poetry to
Drinking.
impress girls. Then there was drinking. I
Yeah.
avoided all the drinking, but I really learned how to draw, and then I got a job doing inking for comics when I got out of
Oh,
the army,
cool.
and then
Nice.
because of all the work I was getting, I almost had a heart attack.
Huh.
I was sleeping 4 to 5 hours a week
A week.
to try and keep up with all of the work.
Jeez.
So they said, you're 27 years old. If you keep sleeping this little, you're going to have a heart attack. So I stopped doing that, and I started taking intermittent jobs doing illustrations for Dungeons and Dragons,
Oh.
and like third-party publishers and stuff like that, and just kept doing it. And it blossomed into my company now, which somehow tangled its way into Autumn Revel, Gary Con, and D&D After Dark with all these
Yeah.
great guys because we're live.
Oh, we're
All
live.
right.
Okay, cool.
Out freaking standing.
Out
So did you
freaking
actually,
standing.
Walt, did you actually do art for TSR?
No. I worked for a bunch of third-party publishers.
Oh, okay.
So when everybody needed something, I was like, "Hello, I can draw."
Yeah, okay, nice. Very
So I
nice.
worked for.
So,
Oh, go ahead, please.
oh no, no, no! I'd rather hear about your CV, Walt. Go ahead.
I was working for Steam Power Publishing. I was working for CSC Publishing. I worked with some of the Warhammer 40K guys for a little bit. It was fun. It was definitely fun.
Yeah, those Warhammer guys are crazy.
So yeah, when they came around, it was like, hey, can you draw these so we can use the sketches for miniatures? It was like, oh, right on, let's do it.
Yeah, but you have to. I bet you had to do it exactly right to their specifications. Did they toss several of them back because you didn't do a good enough job?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't so much that. It was Felix the Swift. Welcome aboard. He's asking how's the chaos. I assume he's talking about Chaos Actual.
Yeah, really. Hey, Felix, good to hear you, buddy.
No, they weren't too bad as far as like kicking things back. When they kicked something back, it was like, hey, can you make it more like this versus this?
Yeah.
So, nothing too bad. I usually work with pretty good people, and I'm vocal enough to where if you're being a dick, I can just tell you to stuff a grenade in your mouth, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fine.
No, I tried doing some stuff with them, but it was their way or the highway, and I didn't like that at all.
Right on.
I need a
As we
little.
learned in OCS, the definition of tact is to tell someone to go to hell and have them to be happy to be on their way.
Yes.
There we go. There we go, Nick. I quite agree. That's when people die in my game, they're happy to stay and listen to the rest of it.
And you know what they taught us at
Yeah, go ahead, JR.
saying they taught us at the NCO Academy when they didn't like it, we grab them by the balls and make them pretend for your benefit.
There we go. I don't think I've ever grabbed anybody by the balls.
Metaphorically speaking, of course.
It's a liberating experience. You should try it.
I see.
And Jim, you got to murder a character today, so you must feel pretty good.
I, of course, didn't murder that character.
The chat was going
drained him,
wild.
The wizard threw the lightning bolt and the fireball, not me.
Yeah, I got to tell
But
you
it felt good, right?
It would have been better if I would have got Word and you, because I had you down to nothing, but I couldn't seal the deal.
the chat was going wild today.
Were they really?
Oh yeah, they were like, "That's one. We got one."
I don't know if that's nice. I think we need to do some behavior modification.
It's really hard to taser somebody through the interface.
Yeah, I bet. Not
But
impossible.
Tell us, Jim, how
Yeah.
you came up with this adventure today. Tell us some of the backstory.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I wanted something dramatic that hit CrimosnHawk City. Gary did it with an orc invasion, but I didn't want to copy exactly what he did. So I thought, and you guys haven't even seen the whole puzzle yet, but I thought that I would do it with Undead and have wizards that want to make everybody undead. So actually, you're going to go down into the well and find that last drum, and you're going to find a clue that's going to take you far away from CrimosnHawk City.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
So,
Yeah.
so
To
James,
King Kong Island.
Something like that, yes.
so James, since the place we left is obviously no longer going to be there, so you can divulge what would have been. What were in the other two chests that we left behind?
Well, you guys might go back there.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of assumed that it would all get turned upside down.
Because there's still a lot of undead. The town gets hit every day by undead and every night by undead because the drums are still pounding down in the well. So, but that place is filled with treasure. A lot of deadly traps, a lot of things like shadow dragons, which are never good to meet. But yeah, there's lots more stuff down there to play with.
That's gonna make some cool cloak and boots for you, Chrome. I'm working on that.
Oh man, that'd be great. Shadow Dragon boots and cloak.
I know you'd be the man, but they don't have
Silence
somebody.
and stealth. It's pretty swift. But
Ooh.
I've been walking around town and things aren't good.
I know there's nobody that sews in town anymore.
Yeah,
Well,
like how much of the population did you kill off, Jim?
I killed off half of them actually.
Yeah.
There's big holes in everything. All the guilds have holes. The 8 bosses of the city will come back in a week and from their vacation.
There must be a lot of loot.
But Lance, you can bring your men at arms in now to the Fighters Guild and stock that place probably. So this is a great opportunity for you.
Well, they aren't really members of the Fighters Guild, so
Yeah, there's not going to be anyone there who can resist them.
I'll have to roll and see. But I think there's 1 or 2 big guys left. I mean, those were 16, 17 level fighters, so they weren't going to get, they weren't going to get killed by these undead. So yeah, it was just the idea of having a city spanning event that my boys, my what is the name you guys are using these days?
The Doom
The
Seekers.
Doom Seekers.
Yeah.
Seekers could have a big hand in. You guys are big heroes now. Stopping those 2 sets of drums and turning all the undead into ash. Oh yeah, that's a huge deal.
So Felix is chastising you, Levi, for not having thrown Chrome at an enemy yet.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, really.
The one thing we got to do is we got to keep Lance off of TMZ so that they don't find out about his recent Naked and Afraid adventures.
Hey, at least I can't turn him into a werewolf in 2 weeks.
So JR has gone from a fighter to a cavalier to a high priest. Oh no, to a werewolf to a high priest. And is he back to being a cavalier now? Is that it?
He's
Yeah,
back
that's
to
a
being
big
a
career.
cavalier, but he's also now the father of 20 humanoid wolves that are gonna be popping out in 2 months.
So will
Because
these
he
be
ca-
like wolf wares?
They'll be very close to wolf wares, but a little smarter.
Is
Because
he
he
need to build
committed-
a nest?
I'm sorry.
I think they call him a den.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
okay, yeah, and then.
Because he committed bestiality.
no.
Praise Anubis.
When you're a beast, you don't commit bestiality.
Oh, I see.
No.
Okay.
So we were making jokes about what we were going to ride to go fight the trolls, and James was telling us how the horses won't get close. So I almost made a joke about Lance could just ride the wolves, and I was like, "Ooh, he already did that."
Yes, he did. Didn't you also say that you wanted to ride a behir?
No, that was Walt's lovely idea.
Oh, that was Walt. Yeah,
If your
Walt.
character gets drunk and passes out, I'm going to get him a Wolf Rider tattoo.
Ooh, there we go. There we go.
Oh, well, there's no liquor left. Prometheus drank it all.
No,
That's
he didn't
true.
drink it all. There's tons of liquid. There was tons of alcohol there. Lots of
No,
inns
Jim.
and Greyhawk.
Jim, I rolled a 20 and I drank all the liquor.
in
Just-
the Red
just like the
Dragon
90s.
Inn, and then you passed out for 2 days.
Just
Hey,
like
we-
the 90s.
Hey, we have friends with a high priest of Anubis. He can make more liquor.
There we go. There we go. So are we starting? We're starting, right? Well,
Oh, yeah, we're on the air
yeah,
now.
we're already going.
Okay. Very good. Very
Yeah,
good.
you got Felix the Swift in there. of course, Sergeant Handley is in 2 places at once.
Multitasking, my friend.
There we go.
So, like, what when you're running a kind of like a running gunfight like you're doing, like we did today, what were some of the things that like you had to keep track of?
Well, 20 skeletons is pretty hard to keep track of.
Right, but I mean,
so
like,
I write those all on a piece of paper, and you guys start chopping them down. So there was a 20 fight in the inn, which was not too time consuming. People complain about AD&D First Edition and that the battles take forever, but when Gary ran it, the battles didn't take forever. Then we just
the ballista on the top of that gate worked out pretty well. That was cool.
It did the job. Yeah, it did the job. I was really amazed at that 3 for spell that increased their strength. I hadn't heard of that one myself.
That is in Tome of Magic.
Okay.
Yeah, great spell. Great spell.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, Worden has got all this crazy time, and he's locking himself into towers and researching spells. I gotta tend the flock. I gotta take spells where I can.
There we go. You just ask for them and they appear.
So Felix is saying we missed the opportunity to give you an epic tattoo while you were passed out for 2 days from the booze.
There we go.
Yeah, I gotta study some of the monk's abilities, because there's a whole bunch of psionics or these native abilities that I haven't taken advantage of yet.
Yeah, okay, it's super hard to get psionics even for a monk. I'm happy to say you got to roll a real high percentile pair of dice to play with psionics at all.
I think some of his abilities, though, as he levels up, are psionic.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, because leveling up is going to be tough for the monk. He has a long, bitter battle ahead of himself.
I mean, it's kind of like the communicate with the animals thing. There's some inherent skill sets that are just there.
Great.
As part of the level.
I'm so happy for you.
So that means because you could communicate with animals, I can make you the godfather of Lance's children.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Another difficult thing for me to role play. Great.
What makes poison so particularly evil?
Oh, the whole everybody hates poison. First of all, Gary would go nuts if we used poison, because we tried to use it a lot. When anybody notices that you're using poison, you're the one that gets attacked by everybody until you're dead.
I see.
It's just
why?
Why? Because they're irritating. Yeah, they're irritating that you're using poison that they can handle the melee and they know what to expect in melee, but when you add poison into it, it seems dirty and filthy and unbold and unbrave.
Just like real war.
Yeah, just like real war. So they don't really have a problem if you use poison against the vile, horrible orcs. That's not a problem. But the second you use it against a person, that's a whole different deal.
I think that's all I've used it against is the orcs and people like that.
Didn't you kill somebody with your poison?
Well, but we didn't know it was poison. We were trying to heal him.
Yeah, the ignorance of the rules is no excuse.
Okay.
It was just an ointment.
Just an ointment, and you thought it healed.
We were just trying to help.
Yeah, you helped, all right. Right into another dimension.
Oopsie.
What happened to anybody?
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, where did all the other wolves go when Lance came back into town?
They're in the forests, off to the east of CrimosnHawk City, and they're nurturing their big bellies as they start eating more food because they're all pregnant.
What did you do, Lance?
Damn, Lance!
Lance had sex with 60 wolves.
Like you do.
That's a bigger week.
And that was just Tuesday.
Yeah, those infantry guys,
Yeah, exactly. And so he impregnated them all, and then the one that came back with him, it's like the alpha female, and she's not leaving his side.
As it should be.
Does she shift back and forth as well?
No, she can't shift right now. You can do stuff to have her shift, but
oh wow,
right now She's just a big wolf.
This is like Lady Hawk, like with fur.
Very,
I've seen
very
that movie.
similar. Yes, that was a fun movie.
I guess the question you got to figure out, Lance, is what is her natural alignment when she's not a wolf? If so, I can shift her if you want to do that. That's a mess, but it can be done.
Are you going to polymorph her?
That's one way I could do it. I have 2 ways.
Let's see. You wizards, you got all the good stuff.
Hopefully she's ugly.
I almost, yeah, really. I almost offed you today, wizard. I was quite proud of that.
And I almost stuck my Thunder Lance right through your wizard's brow.
Yeah, but you couldn't find him because I knew you were going to do that.
I was looking hard, but we threw that sword through that hole like a golfer. Boom.
Oh, I know. I couldn't believe that.
That was awesome.
That was a great idea, Nick. That was really good.
There were some really epic moments in today's game.
There were. I quite agree. I
got a good hat rack out of it. I'm psyched.
Yeah.
The stoned wizard. There were so many pot jokes in the feed. It was
there were several battles that we had no business surviving. So
that's very true.
No, we
the first battle in the inn, you guys did great.
Yep. Yeah, that was actually pretty lucky. We did well.
And then you took on a vampire, a wraith, and a white, and survived. Oh my goodness, how did that happen?
Yeah, super scary.
I tried to charm you guys 4 different times and failed miserably. I just have to up my vampire game.
That's because Prometheus is a force unto himself.
He really is. You guys make saving throws in a remarkably high rate.
Actually, I was rather impressed by the wizard today because there was a moment where we were all wounded and we had to pull back because there's just like once, you're a fighter class or whatever, if you're out of hit points, you're over. That's it. You're done. You don't have any special powers or anything like that. And it was actually the wizard that was out in front at that last.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I couldn't have taken a hit either, but that would have been
because usually once the fighters start running, the wizard should already either be running.
Yes, exactly.
Or whatever. But you waited in there and went out front, and it could have easily been a walk-away battle. But as long as we were able to keep throwing stuff at that thing, the genie and things like that, then that provided that opening to get that sword through. And
yeah, the genie is the djinn is very unhappy.
I don't care if he's unhappy. He works for me. My name, last time I checked, my name is Master.
There we go. Yeah.
Awesome. I didn't expect you to
bitches.
put my lights out. I was thinking you were going to be able to take me down. The only thing I had going for me, which I was smart enough to wear, because technically we are at convention, so I did have that on.
Oh, well, you got to tell me that at the beginning of the adventure.
Oh, all right. Roger that.
Yes, that's a magical ring that only 2 people in the known universe have that stop him from getting hit by any type of missile attack.
From friendly fire?
No, from any fire.
Oh, okay. I always thought it was that.
No.
Right. But it was born out of the need of not.
Yes. I have another friend called Dan Key, and he was in 3 different conventions with me, and he died during every single game from people shooting into melee, which you should never ever do. and they all shot in, and he got hit like 6 times in one melee round, and he just kept dying. And he would beg people, please, I'll fight really hard, don't shoot into melee, but they all ignored him.
So my first deaths with you were that too. I got killed from the napalm and then the defoliant.
There we go. You now know almost all my tricks.
Dear God, what were you playing in Space Vietnam or something like that?
Metamorphosis Alpha.
Yeah, Metamorphosis Alpha.
Yeah, Metamorphosis
Good at
Alpha.
picking my 10 items.
Yeah, exactly right.
So what are we? Who are we gonna get to replace Arlen? Like, what do you think he's gonna create next?
I don't know. He could certainly do a non-human, though. It wouldn't hurt to have another one in the group.
Yeah,
we need some short people.
He said he was not having fun playing a cleric. He felt woefully underpowered.
Yeah,
it was nice. I don't think his skills at playing a cleric were all that good, though. He didn't kind of. I think I don't know how he was approaching playing a cleric. Like, oh, I'm buffing people or whatever, and it's like, That's not, I mean, like those first edition clerics were kind of really actually warriors.
Yes, they were.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but it would be nice. It would be nice to have like a gnome assassin. That'd be cool, right, James?
Can't do assassins. You can certainly do gnomes.
See, what is this thing you have against assassins and poison and anti-paladins?
We've talked to you about this. Assassins are not fun for role players.
Yeah, but you didn't say we couldn't play them. You just said it would be hard if we did.
No, I said you couldn't play assassins. I put my foot down on that.
It's in the player's handbook.
Yeah, right. And I put my foot down and I said no.
Now, what year did you work at TSR? What was that like?
I started proofreading AD&D in '74.
Yeah, because that player's handbook was written in '78.
I think it was written in '76 or '7 and published in 78.
It was. That's right. It was written way before.
So clearly, you were there when the assassin was put in. That's the point I'm making.
Okay, and I appreciate that, Nick. But here's the deal: assassins, they don't role play. They roll percentile dice to see if your kill worked, and I find that disgusting. That is not role playing.
It's just a different type of rolling.
It's numbers. It's numbers crunching, which I do not like. Min maxers, just don't enjoy them. So
with specialization.
When second edition came out, I said, nope, we're not doing assassins. And all my boys, all my editors, and all my designers yelled at me, and I said, I don't care. This is one time when I'm the boss, and we're going to do it my way.
Were you killed by an assassin?
Also removed psionics from the front line as well. That became a class instead of a alternate ability. So that was a huge thing.
Zeb did that, though. I didn't have anything to do with it.
And had you been killed by an assassin? Is that why you're bitter?
No, I've never been killed by an assassin. They're too weak. I was too clever.
Wait a minute. That's not true. Vecna's assassin killed the Circle of Eight in Rory.
But while my character was there, I wasn't there. And then, of course, I have a wish that when I die, I get brought back instantly alive in my inn.
Speaking of inns, we have one now too.
Yes, you do. You got your own private special inn that everybody loves.
Yep. Oh, good.
Do we have a name for this thing?
The Red Dragon Inn.
It's got to be the Red Dragon Inn. You can't change that.
I was going to say.
So how did you come up with the name the Red Dragon Inn?
Come in and get fisted.
Exactly. There, every color dragon is an inn in CrimosnHawk City.
Yeah, somewhere in D&D there's a dragon inn everywhere.
Yeah.
We should take the Shadow Dragon's head and change it to the Shadow Dragon Inn.
It's really too bad you didn't take its head.
Well,
we could still take it.
That's right. Yes. But
I did a lot of that.
I can't wait till we start role playing. Ordering food and wine and hiring new winches and testing them out to make sure they're good.
We're just gonna make some cool recipes.
There we go. That'll be fun.
Can't John just go to the cemetery and raise some dead?
That'd make it hard when your finger gets in the soup.
Yeah, John does not raise. He's not supposed to raise dead.
Actually, in a total aside, in Gaxmore, there is another Trollord product. There is an inn called the Mostly Dead Inn, which is staffed by all undead, created by Tombstone.
Wow, Luke and Ernie did a good job on that product.
Yeah,
I even have a little piece in there.
Yeah.
What did you write in there, Jim?
I wrote a portal that takes you to the other dimensions. It just looks like a nice little bower of plants and roses. But if you sit in there during the full moon, you get transported to the place you need to go the most. You guys aren't going to like dimension hopping because when you hop a dimension, all your weapons turn into loaves of bread.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
At least we won't go hungry.
A dimension or a plane?
Well, I meant plane. You're right, Nick. You're always right, Nick.
Well, I'm just saying, if you do plane or shift, are you saying your weapons turn into bread?
Yes, they do.
There are some places where that happens.
Okay, because the genie's supposed to be able to plane or shift.
Yeah, he can do it himself, but he can't take you guys.
Oh, okay.
So Felix wants to know how much weed was smoked by you guys when you were writing this. Give him the ideas.
No weed past our lips that I'm aware of.
Okay.
They
And,
slipped
and
it into the
Felix,
brownies.
and Felix couldn't use Google today. What a sad deal for poor Felix.
So if we pursue this thing next week, and then that takes us away to a new place, we won't be going back to the castle for a while.
Well, all depends. You could polish off this other thing in a week.
Oh, okay. I see.
But
I see.
it's
Okay.
it's a pretty deep mystery with lots of different adventures. I did
Well,
that on
and we're
purpose.
going back to the well, which is really bad. So that
We could claim that stone of petrification.
Yep.
Oh, you mean that the orcs have?
It's in their stone hand. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You won't be. The drum beat will not take you near that area.
And we gotta figure out what we're gonna do with that wizard that we brought back with us.
Oh, I already got him handled. He's a coat rack.
All right.
Yeah. It'd
Literally
be
a
nice,
coat rack.
It'd
He's
be
literally
nice
my coat rack.
to unstone him because then all his goodies would fall into Weirdness' hands. But
We'll get there. Not ready yet, but we'll get there.
yeah.
Your taste in decor is leaves something to be desired.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Oh, you have no idea what I've done.
So he's kind of like Han Solo in the Carbonite right now. So
Very, very similar, yes. Not as nice, actually.
I was thinking more like Dara when Merlin captured her.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm going to put
Why don't-
tassels on him.
Why don't we just use the stone to flesh ring and stab him and take his stuff?
Well, it isn't quite that easy.
With poison, it is. With poison, it's real easy.
That is very funny.
This is
Felix
how
wants
we
to
get into
know
trouble.
Felix wants to know what Wordna's alignment is.
That's a great question.
That
Okay.
he's not.
That's
that he's
awesome.
not answering. I think you could tell by his actions, though.
Yeah, usually. I step up. So,
He hasn't deliberately killed a player character yet, but he has thrown shurikens in their backs.
yeah, that's just because I sucked rolling the hit. So I've always said try and have short people in front of me.
Yeah,
So-
there we go.
And I haven't done that since event 2. So I've been pretty
Uh-huh.
good.
So is
But,
that
as a point of order, my alignment can be determined by anyone who can do logical positivism. You can figure my alignment out perfectly.
Yeah, okay. I don't think there's anybody in our audience that can do logical positivism.
so
Run
Wordna,
run us through the exercise of logical positivism.
Oh no.
So, okay, so there are 9 alignments available to us.
Right.
The spell that I cast at first level was Find Familiar. The familiar is specific to alignment. End of story.
Chaotic good.
Not chaotic.
No,
Pseudo dragon is lawful good.
no, no.
Lawful neutral.
If you're lawful good, you get the brownie.
The brownie. Chaotic
Okay.
good was
Actually, I have a list of a Gary's list of creatures that you can get that isn't just the brownie.
Yeah, I've got a cool list I saw once from the old supplement, and I loved that. That was a great list.
It was. That's where I got my pseudo dragon.
Felix is saying that a wizard turning another wizard into a coat rack sounds pretty evil to him.
I didn't do the turning. I just
That's right.
keep it.
He did
I
not do the
decided to
turning.
do the packing, and I will happily unpack him once I cast my first 5th circle spell on him, and that'll be the
There
end
we
of the
go.
loop.
There we go. So it's just sitting in a corner in your room, right, Weirda?
Well, I stuck some tassels on him, and I've got a couple things hanging off him now.
And have you done any special spells to defend your room when you're not there?
I've got 2 on it right now: guards and wards, and wizard lock.
Those are both fine spells.
They work pretty well.
If we have to, we could always, get some of the townspeople to help, because I'll just raise them up out of the ground.
No, I gotta get some. I gotta get some followers because I'm high enough level now. I can start doing scrolls and potions, and so we got to get some people copying my stuff so I can start cranking out gear for us.
There we go.
We also have all of the retainers took the weaponsmith and Bower Fletcher and stuff, non-weapon proficiencies.
Yeah,
So we can
super
get them.
smart.
We can get them making gear for us because if it's going to keep turning into bread and circuses every time we do something. We're going to need to be able to make our own kit.
Well,
Yeah.
half of the town is gone. Now is the time for us to try and establish some of those posts with a handful of our people to try and get monopolies on certain businesses. This
Great.
is a great time.
Wordna the made man.
Wordna the neutral good made man.
So Storycaster is asking where one could get the pseudo dragon list and Gary's lists of monsters, etc. Is that available now for people?
Boy, I don't
For
know.
the right price.
I'll have to look and see if I can get it. Tell him to friend me on Facebook, and I'll make sure he gets it.
All right, so send him a friend request on Facebook there, Storycaster.
Jim, I think the last place I remember seeing that was either in one of the supplements that had the extended list, but it was also, oh man, it's also in one of the.
I thought it was in the Greyhawk supplement.
It got reprinted in one of those areas.
Yeah,
I can look through the supplements tonight for you.
No, you don't have to, Andrew. You have a lot on your plate already. I can take care of this simple thing for this fine fellow.
Fair enough. Yeah, the first 16 players start playing tomorrow for me.
Well, Walt, that face is looking very Balrog-like.
Well, hold on. Let's see. If I can get it to
No Balrog for us. It's what is
there
it?
you go. Okay.
Is that a type 7 demon? What was
I don't know.
Balrog?
Balrog was type 6.
I'll leave it to the chat when I'm done. They can. I'm just drawing.
So Jim,
This was as high as they went up the food chain for the types.
I'm sorry, what, Nick?
That brings up a question. The area surrounding Greyhawk, are we looking at the actual CrimosnHawk? Are we looking at the actual world of Greyhawk, or are you going to do something new?
No, I'm purposely not doing the real world of Greyhawk.
Okay.
Outstanding. So have you been thinking about where one might acquire Pegasus and CrimosnHawk?
Yeah, that's really simple. You could have done that. You can do that in the mountains that are to the south of the city right now.
Oh.
I can just ride my figurine.
Hamahara, and he hopefully he can help steer us in that direction. I got to do a little fixing to him, but it turns out that Undead's effects are temporary, so I'm lucky.
There we go.
So I've got a question. Because having not played D&D in 30 years or so, and then starting, oddly enough, when I started playing D&D with you guys, I was also starting this lit RPG book that I'm writing, which resembles D&D in many ways. And so I'm having to do research, and one of the research items for a scene that I wrote had to do with undead and whites specifically that drain. And I in part of the research, one of the things that I was questioning about today was when things get drained to essentially below level 1, they die and then they come back as undead. So
as whites, yes.
Right.
You get a mini white.
Right. A half strength one is the research. So I was just curious, why didn't we see that temple filled with a whole bunch of runty undead? That got turned
because the guy who's controlling all this doesn't want a bunch of whites and wraiths and vampires walking around. So he had plenty to make just from the bodies that were around town. Yeah. And he really wants just skeletons to come out because they're the easiest to control. And and he's giving the skeletons fire breath now, so they'll be very effective. Yeah, and of course they were really resistant to a lot of your stuff, which I found delightful. Every time I could describe that triangle with the arrows, I just had a big smile on my face.
That was devastating. That was devastating.
I'm just trying to wonder why everybody was forgetting.
So that's what happened to Arlen. He became a white.
No, he died from something else, didn't he?
Yeah, he didn't get killed by the white.
He got drained a level or 2 maybe.
He lost 2.
Yeah, but he still had some to go when he got killed with the wizard spells.
I gotta say, JR throwing some his custom emoji from the sub that he got today from SithCon. He just threw it up in the stream, and it's a little tiny head of Razor.
Razor the familiar?
Yeah. That.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, when you subscribe to the channel, you get access to custom emojis, and JR just used his Razor emoji.
So
Let me see that.
Can Andrew get a hold of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Go on to the actual Twitch channel and look at
I
the
didn't
channel.
know how to do that.
At tier 2 gets us. I can't tell what that is.
That is you with your naked and afraid face.
Outstanding.
Oh,
Yes.
somebody put the Twitch channel in the chat just so I can see.
Please let there be an emoji of two wolves doing it.
Stop it.
There wasn't, but there
this
will
is
be
a-
now.
Family
Wasn't it
channel.
50 wolves doing it? It's not two.
Oh my
That's
god.
the Wolf Rider emoji.
there we go.
So I threw it in the chat for you, Worden, if you want to
Thanks,
hop
bro.
in.
I'm checking it
So-
out. See if I can even
So
understand.
was that normal with Gary, that when you make a joke, he's like, okay, that's how it's going to be?
You know, that got dangerous for us because Gary's rule was whatever you say happens. So
Wow.
we stopped instantly making sarcastic comments because really bad things would happen. So we just stopped it. Yeah, that was his rule.
Okay. Well, we learned that one the hard way today.
Oh,
I thought it was a good rule. That's
Yeah,
why I
and-
do it. I do that in
and
my
we
games too.
And we shouldn't just randomly turn over our entire religion to a thief.
Yeah, I was joking because I was trying to figure out a way to go back to the Kopaz.
I
Yeah.
could not believe that Lance gave up the high priesthood of the temple. He's in such big trouble now.
I wanted to hack and slash things.
You're gonna have to.
you were a major badass, though. You were pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're gonna have to
for
do
about
some
30
major.
minutes there. You were really something.
30 minutes. There we go.
That's what she said.
Yeah, you're gonna have
Yeah.
to do some really rugged quests for the temple.
You were like me for about the 2 months I had corporal stripes.
How many times did you lose your corporal stripes?
Just the once was all it took.
Yep. Yeah, but you went to the other side after that, didn't you? You went.
I did.
OCS.
I was so pissed that I just said, "That's it, motherfuckers! I'm going to become a second lieutenant."
I was a corporal twice as well. It happens. So what happens was you celebrate the promotion a little too hard.
Yeah. It's all good now. I'm glad it's all gone in the past.
If you had it to do over again, would you do it the same way?
Yep, absolutely, 100%. I'd still do it again. It was
Absolutely.
great. It was great.
Plus, he wound up with Nicole, so come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Nicole and I went and got Thai massages and In-N-Out Burger tonight. It was a great night.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
but
I don't think I've ever eaten In-N-Out. I don't know if they have them on the East Coast.
And,
I thought you were a real man.
and I'm
My blue
tripping.
cord says yes.
And I'm tripping over the concept of Nicole getting a Thai massage.
Oh
is
man, it was great.
How many silk ties did it take?
That's pretty good.
yeah,
So
but
now,
didn't you
what
meet?
game-
Didn't you meet
Go ahead.
Nicole when you were a poor actor though?
I did. I met her when I was a poor actor, and she was a rich opera singer.
Yeah.
And her first agent was at the Playboy building.
Oh,
Wow.
cool.
Yeah, it was
So-
crazy.
Yeah. I was there. I was there in the one in Chicago too. We were trying to get a license, but we didn't succeed.
So, Nick, if you couldn't play Prometheus as a fighter thief, what do you think your character would have been if you had to pick something else?
If I'm playing Prometheus or I'm playing anything else?
Playing anything else?
Okay, because I'm playing Prometheus the way he is in the book.
Batshit crazy.
Yeah, completely. Well, I mean, he's just Prometheus is the ultimate cult member. Like, I mean, except it's a cult of himself. So it's a funny character. Normally, I like to play paladins, and I like to play thieves, fighters, or paladins. But I was toying with the idea, since we could play with other character classes. I wanted to play a duelist. which I always thought those were really fun. They don't have a lot of abilities. They get a D12 for hit points, which is nice, but then they get that dodge the death blow ability, which I always thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I like that. But I think my secondary, I love playing half ogres because you can just turn them into war machines, and not much is expected out of you. Yeah,
that was definitely one of my go-to player characters. Half ogre tank, effectively.
Yeah, I hate spellcasters. They're no fun. There's not enough action for me, and it's too cerebral, and I'm not that smart.
I like playing the fighters too. I think having done three different kinds.
The one thing I've never played is a dwarf, and I should challenge myself to play a dwarf. That would be fun. It
was a lot of fun, especially when you look at the saving throws. Man, it's so ridiculous easy to hit those saving throws.
Yeah, really.
Plus 5.
Plus, when you get that dwarven throwing hammer, oh my goodness, life is so sweet from that day on.
I wouldn't mind playing like a halfling thief. That would be fun. But I'm playing a thief right now, so I don't know. Yeah.
I will say that the monk's different. They're kind of, I think, underpowered right up front, but I think they actually go into their own.
Oh my goodness, they get much better.
That high level monk is a blender.
That death hand thing that you've got is just super cool. Plus, when you get a little lower down in the levels, there's some monk equipment that you can pick up.
Maybe an acrobat, right, Jim?
No.
So we have the question from chat from Storycaster. He wants to know if Rangers are still used.
Oh yeah, we did Rangers. They were fun.
I have a Ranger. Morgaine is a Ranger.
Yeah.
I know the Barbarian has a lot of Ranger traits. It says if you read through.
Yeah. I mean, just archery on enemies is just way cool. But Gary would never let us use the arrows when they were 10 feet away, 10 feet or closer. He says you have to drop the bow and you have to draw a melee weapon.
Yeah, there's an archer NPC class that's fun to play too, where you just fully concentrate on the bow. That's fun. That was in Best of Dragon 3.
Yeah, okay, great. Dragon, marvelous.
Lots
of things were in Dragon.
I think that was when you were the editor.
I was never the editor. I was the publisher of the magazine, but I was never the editor.
So what did you do before you were a D&D legend?
Oh, well, I started out in sales with TSR in 80, and then I went from sales to the book department because we started selling Pick-a-Path books. Our first 4 Pick-a-Path books, we sold 500,000 of each of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did those do? So clearly, very well.
They did really good. They launched TSR into the book world because we started doing we started doing some novels, and then I went from that in the design department because they wanted me to start doing some laser tag designs, and
those Pick-a-Pack books were all over Walden Books. I remember that was one of the book clubs.
Yeah, I remember that.
Bantam did
sci-fi fantasy little card.
Yeah,
Pick-a-Path was one of the top 20 choices that you could choose from.
There we go. Bantam did one a month. They were crazy for him.
So Storycaster says that Gary killed his Dwarf Ranger in less than 7 minutes.
I'm not surprised. My record is 15 minutes for a party of 8.
Dear Lord.
So the concept of trying to, because I've thought about it, trying to write those Pick-a-Path style books, like that just breaks your brain trying to figure out how the hell to organize that.
They are very hard to do, I have to tell you. I wrote on my Facebook page how to set it up and make it organized so it isn't that bad. But you lose sight of the paths very quickly as you're writing those things.
You cannot be a pantser and do one of those.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, I'm writing one for Troll Lords right now. He wants to experiment and see how it'll go out there in the marketplace. I think it'll do.
Well, they're starting to come back. There's some out there for Minecraft because I've looked into it that do really, really well. There's some more adult genre ones that are doing well. There's some romance, choose your own adventure, whatever we're calling them.
We had some hard.
The romance ones are like where it's a love triangle, and you basically pick which partner.
We had Heart Quest books.
Which wolf you want to get on top of that night?
All 60.
Yeah, really. I want the cute one with the black pelt.
So I've got a question because you guys are probably more deeply read in this area of of the book lore that I am, because I picked up this lit RPG thing on a whim and just said, you know what, I have an idea that I think I can turn kind of mimic D&D and stuff. But it seems like today lit RPG is really big on the rolling of dice and all this other, I mean, like the technical things. It's almost like one of our sessions written down. And I'm just wondering, is that really what, I mean, what it's like? I mean,
are you talking lit RPG or game
Yeah.
lit? Because I understand they're different things too.
Are they?
The lit RPG is more crunchy, so they want those things. The game lit is more where you're not in your face constantly with the updating of the stats and all of that. I know you've got to be careful with at least Amazon, because when you start throwing in those charts, they start kicking them back some as like you're scamming or page fluffing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you got to be careful.
I would be very careful about the lit RPG audience before you get too deep into it, because they're a nasty group of people.
I've heard that.
And they fight all the time, and they are vindictive towards each other.
I actually talked to this Kong guy.
Yeah, I think it's dead though, because everybody's already done it.
Yeah.
So you want to find that, like, the real money in doing anything is being the first into a genre, or sort of like the first 10. And then everybody else there's not that much. I know people that have like spent a year writing lit RPG and made no money.
Oh no, yeah, and the thing is I'm realizing, because I've read zero, like literally donut hole of official lit RPG. I just heard of it and know basically what it is, and I know what I'm doing, even though I might call it that isn't that, because I'm writing a fantasy that kind of mimics some of the D&D. People who are D&D players or gamers will recognize it for what it is. Thriller writer or readers will go, okay, this is interesting, and not be into the gaming thing. So I'm trying to make it a very broad appeal.
So is it more portal fiction?
So my son, brought out the word isekai or something, or
that's very hot right now.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but okay, if that's what I'm writing, sure, let's go with that.
Isekai is gate fiction. Where like it's kind of stupid. Like, you're a Japanese person and you get hit on the head by a hammer, and now, that's portal fiction. Isekai is like a portal opens up in the middle of Tokyo, and out come orcs, and the Japanese army fights them.
So
Godzilla.
Yeah. So here's a weird thing that I've done. Anyone who's going to read this thing that I'm constructing, and I don't even know what to call it nowadays, is going to think they're reading a hard SF novel up front. They're or a thriller or something, because it's all real here, government work, whatever, and a plausible rationale for suddenly you're in a different place.
So let me just say the two things, and I'm not bragging here, but Ernest Clines and myself are considered the first people to do lit RPG novels, besides not Lee Brackett, but Andre Norton, who really did it a long time ago. Yeah. But Soda Pop Soldiers is considered the first lit RPG by some people, close to Ernest Cline's novel, and I wrote that back in 2013, published in 2015. But lit RPG now in its new form is way different. Like, you got to read like an Aileron Kong novel, but the question you have to ask yourself is, are you writing lit RPG or are you writing cyberpunk?
And I don't even know what that means. Truthfully, because I if I think about it with that influence of these terms, I think I'm writing what is essentially a mild fantasy, or like an epic fantasy, but in a style that I'm intending to try to make this that it's friendly for readers of thrillers, but the gamer fantasy audience will appreciate, because by chapter 3 you're in a different world, and the character, who isn't a gamer, he doesn't know anything about gaming or anything else, is now faced with a new set of problems. And writer
guru to in me would say to you, you haven't defined your audience, and you're on a road to nowhere if you haven't defined the audience yet.
Well, I've defined it as a crossover, but between folks who are into thrillers and folks who are into games, and there should be a crossover.
No, I don't think
theoretically.
those two groups don't touch at all.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
I'd be amazed. I don't think they cohabitate anything.
Generally, readers don't genre jump. They either are this or they're that. And a crossover audience means a very small audience, meaning you won't reel in. Thriller is a great audience, and fantasy is a great audience, but generally the two don't mix. And if they do mix, there's a very small element of the mixing, and neither of the main bodies are going to suddenly get sucked into that vortex. That would just be me raining on your parade. I'm sorry.
No. And this is where like you said, unless you're diving into what is in effect a new genre, or
if you're creating a new genre and you're taking steps to do that, that's very lucrative, and people have done it because lit RPG did not exist and then it existed, and harem didn't exist and then it existed. So it happens, and the first person into a new genre makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
So my view on this is the POV character has no concept of anything other than he's one of us suddenly finding himself in a new environment that he needs to just deal with, and he doesn't know magic, he doesn't know this, this is all an observation for the new guy who never gamed, and which to me is kind of like one of those things where I'm trying to pull in the mainstream genre into something that would flex their mind a little bit, and treat it like a thriller.
They don't want to flex their mind. I mean, so I started out where I started out, and then I went to Trade Pub, and then I came back to Indy, and in that journey, here's what I learned: they don't want to stretch. What the reading that they're doing, the reading that genre readers are doing, is their vacation, it's their break, it's their escape from the real world. Life is tough for them. And the reading is the retreat, and they generally want to put down one Space Marine novel and they want to pick up the next Space Marine novel, and as close as those two can be to each other, make them very happy. It's an old sort of like publishing thing that writers, when we had to approach gatekeepers and publishers, we were always trying to say it's this but a twist, to somehow stand out in the crowd and somehow hopefully you're the next Harry Potter or whatever. But if you really want to make money on Amazon, it's the opposite of that. It's exactly like if you're going to write a Space Marine novel and Galaxy's Edge is the best Space Marine novel, you basically want to say it's Galaxy's Edge. I can define that success for you. Ruins of the Galaxy, which came after Galaxy's Edge, was written by a Galaxy's Edge fan. And basically, he says in the first thing, I am a big fan of Galaxy's Edge. That series sold a lot of books because it was an easy, no-brainer decision for those people. I will give you a Trade Pub mainstream version of that. Twilight, 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey started off as Twilight fan fiction.
Right.
Yeah, so people don't want to think. They don't want twists. They don't want to be stretched. And it just shows what a great, smart, wonderful person you are. And that's awesome, but that's not everybody. Most people just, they love what they read so much and they want to stay right there.
See, but here's the thing. And this is why I'm taking the path that I am, is that I'm never actually taking you into a fantasy world. You're slowly but surely cracking I'm effectively in an exploration novel. The thriller audience is coming in, and yes, and part of the actual thriller hard SF concept is the wait a minute. I was supposed to this is like Avatar. So Avatar, we have this concept. The movie. Remember the movie? Where you have these essentially Space Marines in these remotely controlling these characters on a planet, essentially. So imagine that's the way it was supposed to be, but it didn't quite work out that way. They find themselves consciously in this body. There is no I'm remotely operating something. I'm suddenly in this body. Like, what do I do now? I'm experiencing all this stuff. what happened.
Sounds interesting. If you find the audience for it, you could be the first guy in the genre. But
speaking of finding audiences, James.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you guys were first starting D&D, where nobody was really doing this? I mean, it's iconic now. So obviously, you look back on it, you're like, of course, it was a success. But how did that feel doing that in the beginning when you didn't know it was going to be the next big thing?
What was the inspiration for it?
Oh well, it was miniatures wargaming, and actually they played King Arthur and his knights, and they decided they had miniatures for all the knights, Lancelot, Gawain, all those guys, and they decided that it would be very fun if each of those miniature knights had his own agenda. And so that turned into entering the evil castle and fighting through things, and every one of the knights and King Arthur had a different agenda, and if you accomplished your agenda, then you won the miniatures game. And from that, Gary took it and turned 2 pages of Arneson type stuff into 3 32-page books.
You said the other day that you gamed once with Arneson and it was a terrible experience.
Yeah, he wasn't. First of all, he had an attitude. Now, I don't mind people with attitudes, but I don't much like them.
Yeah, I mean, we play with JR.
Come on. But yeah, he had an attitude that nothing of his stunk. And,
okay.
And he wouldn't type on a typewriter or a computer. He insisted on doing everything longhand, and he was a worse speller than I was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, oh, wow. So,
and that's before everything had spell check on it.
Yeah, I know. Boy, I sure was happy when spell check happened. But he had good ideas, just like Gary had good ideas. But he couldn't express them to others. And when he tried writing rules, they were very vague, and he didn't cover half the things he really needed to cover.
Aha, very interesting.
Yeah. So
now, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I've seen that from the outside looking in when I was trying to get my footing. A lot of the manuals seem to be written from the assumption that everybody already knows what you're talking about. Well, so that's hard to do, to write it so it's for everybody, I think.
There is that is the style on 75% of them, but Wizards and a couple of Pathfinder, a couple of those big boys, do now write for the 8, 9, and 10-year-old as well, who doesn't know anything. Which is I think it's the only mistake I made at TSR when I was the vice president and in charge of product. I should have made something for the basic set for the 8, 9, and 10-year-old, and I didn't. And so when Magic the Gathering came in, those 8, 9, and 10-year-olds flocked to it, and the 8, 9, and 10-year-olds became 11, 12, and 13-year-olds who played Magic, not D&D.
Yeah, I can see that.
So yeah, and some of those cards now are worth like crazy money.
Oh yeah, Black Lotus, $3,000.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So Rothman, you were going on today on Facebook about more sort of shenanigans within the science fiction community.
Oh,
you want to talk about that?
Sure. So the I forget what it was, one of the World Fantasy Convention recently tweeted out something that basically was they were kind of falling all over themselves, apologizing for having sent out I guess a schedule for their upcoming con that was hurtful to some people, and so I was like, what in the world does that tweet have anything? What drove such a groveling apology on this tweet from these guys? So I looked into it, and I found at least one of the letter, and it was actually several that folks wrote down, but it was basically it reminded me of James's wish thing, where it's like you're gonna write down, like, say a schedule for something, imagine that's the wish, and it's not going to cover what it needs to cover, and James is going to slaughter you. So what I think these World Fantasy Con guys wrote is a schedule that they thought was it was showing, I guess, all of the sessions and diversity and this and that and whatever, and these people were lambasting them, going, you you guys are terrible. What you wrote was horribly offensive. It assumes a heteronormative environment.
Oh
And,
my God!
I mean, it went into a lit. I mean, it was literally like a 3-page letter going into just. I'm just like it was such minutia. I was like, really, adults. An adult is writing this and actually getting themselves worked up because someone didn't take in consideration the idea that the Afrofuturism session was geared towards white. They implied it was geared towards white people, and what if you had other people there? And it was it was a I was just like, there's no winning with the people who are complaining. I was just like, why do you guys bother? You're taking the Dane Guild. You're never going to get this right.
Yeah,
And I'm like, really, has our society gotten to the point where we find offense at? I mean, I can find offense in anything. I mean, show me a potato, I'll be offended. I'll find something. And
that all comes on the heels this week of what was it, Wizards saying, I saw Walt was upset about that. What was it? What happened? Wizards got rid of racial modifiers, right?
It was weird because, I mean, part of the thing that makes having different races interesting is that they have different statistics, either up or down. So, I mean, it wasn't so much the fact that they were trying to be inclusive. I get that a lot of people are trying to be more inclusive and trying to bring more people into gaming. That I think is a good thing. Not limiting your table to just a bunch of a certain type of people, but having everybody at your table because it can make things more fun and interesting. That wasn't the problem I had. The problem I had was they were changing the stats on a playable race of kobolds. So that normally when you roll a kobold, you get -2 to the strength or something like that, -2 to the constitution. Or
charisma hit or whatever.
Yeah, it's some sort of hit. But the main thing that they were saying is, oh, you mean a kobold can't have an 18 strength? Why? And it's like, it's 2 freaking feet tall. It's not going to be able to lift half a log and throw it over their shoulder. And I mean, it's part of those differences that make a role-playing game interesting, that make something like random generation interesting. And I was like, are you serious? Whatever.
This is trade-offs.
Right. And this wasn't worth my time until somebody sent me, and I really need to learn to shut my Facebook Messenger off, especially during the day. But I have friends who are deployed, and a lot of times that's the only way they can communicate when they come back into the wire. So if they need something, it's a great way to get a hold of me. But I left my Facebook Messenger on. I was just about to fall asleep, and it was at the time when those guys usually message me. So I turned over and looked, and it's like, oh, did you see this and this and this? Well, and it was just a complaining rant of why this was a thing. And I'm like, look, here's the deal. I'm like, you know what was one of the funniest stories I've had from when I was younger? I went to a military school, and there was this thing you had to do. Now nowadays they have these soft, flexible, like big, heavy sandbags that are like 12 feet long. And the goal is to lift them all up on your shoulder with like 12 guys and carry them as a squad. The great thing about those is they dip down or raise up to taller or smaller people. Well, when I went through this military school, they didn't use those pro athlete sports bags. They used
logs.
Telephone poles.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right? So we would lift a half telephone pole with 6 guys. Now, I'm 5'5". If I'm wearing really, really, like stupid boots, maybe 5'5.5", 5'6". I'm not a big dude. I'm wide. I can carry a lot of stuff, but I'm not, I'm basically a dwarf without the beard. So it's like, I would get into the middle of one of these logs, and it would be like, no, put them at the front of the end,
Right.
because everybody else in my crew was like 5'9", 5'10", and here comes Wally the Wonder Midget to friggin' grab this stupid log, and it's like no, go put him in the line with the little guys, and then here comes the instructor's like, you got to get over there because you don't get to choose your crew chooses you, and it's stuff like that that's real life, that brings in interesting stories, that make interesting challenges for the players, and they just want to remove all that and just have this like emo discussion of feelings and stuff like that. And if I want that, I have a veteran support group down the street where I can yell at people and tell them to stop crying in my beer, and instead I want D&D. I want to bash some evil shit.
Yes,
and that's they're taking that away, and it was just let me correct that. They're not taking that away. They're amending certain portions of modern rule books. But seeing as I don't really play 5e, I don't really play a lot of modern games other than my own, produced by my own studio. And anybody who wants to call me out on that of saying like I'm a gatekeeper or whatever, take a good look at my main rule book and then try and make that statement. I have one of the most comprehensive, inclusive covers of any rule book, and like I never take any crap on that, and I will never take any crap on that because I don't believe in gatekeeping. I don't believe one race is better than another, but what I do believe is that one race is different from another, and those differences are awesome, and they make for great story, and they make for great people and good experiences, and if you travel around the world, really good food, surprisingly.
Or coffee.
Oh my God.
In my fantasy world, I want everybody to hate everybody like real life.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Let the hate flow.
Stop it.
See, that's the thing that amazes me, because exactly like what Walt's saying is, there's a lot of beauty in the differences, and people want to kind of normalize and wash over or focus on things that are just make no sense. Because to me, it was always I never intended any of this to be like this, because to me, race is a color, whatever. I don't care. And when I go look back at like what I've written, and I know, having looked at Nick's stuff, he does the same stuff. Where if I actually look at inventory of like, all right, I've got a Hispanic main POV character, some black guys, some brown guys, some this, I've got a surprisingly diverse crew of POVs in all the books that I've written, and I never intended it to be. It's just the way it was, because it's reflecting the real world.
Right.
And the thing that pisses me off, and what actually was the straw that broke the camel's back for me to go actually indie, was TradPub executive editor, who will remain nameless. What my first book that I published, he was looking at acquiring it, but he said I needed to go change the race of my main POV character. So I'm a white Jewish scientist essentially in real life, and I was one of my POV characters was a black humanist scientist. Okay, big deal. Evidently, that was not going to fly at the because they were doing this own voices thing, and I as a white dude couldn't write someone who was a black guy, and they asked me to change the race, and I basically said no, because where does it stop?
Exactly right. Yes, exactly right.
And so I indied it, and like 6 weeks later, it was a USA Today bestseller. But
yeah,
it just pissed me off, because that's the society we're seeing in some of the gatekeepers. TradPub gatekeepers.
And the really bad part about this whole thing, with like the orcs being not just evil, their wizards is training up 8, 9, and 10-year-olds to think everybody can be good or bad, and they're training them up not to fight evil, but they're training them up to look at things to see if it's worth fighting, and that's not D&D for me. That's taking away the suspense, And I want you guys to worry about your characters living or dying, and I want you guys to be satisfied when you do brilliant things like Walt did today when his cleric talked the gods out of destroying Prometheus.
Oh my God, that was so much fun.
That is big deal stuff. But you don't have that with Wizards of the Coast anymore. Nope. It's like everybody gets a trophy, Jim. Everybody gets a trophy.
And I think there's one one ring on that chamois. And it's not to say that women can't play D&D. I'm cool with that. That's fine. But it's an attack on males and little boys, trying to teach them like that you don't have to fight. There doesn't have to be conflict. There's not good versus evil. Little boys need to play war. They need to hit stuff. That's what we do. Left to our own devices, if you give us a ball on the field, we are not going to build anything with that ball. We're going to hand it to one guy and basically beat the crap out of it.
There we go.
So like the thing that D&D does is it gives probably kids that are a little more cerebral, who weren't athletes, the chance to exercise that maleness by wailing on a troll.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely vital.
Well,
for
plus,
women, it's great. Women want to do it too. That's cool too. More warriors.
Just let me say too,
need it.
One of Gary's hidden agendas for making D&D was good defeats evil. He did that on purpose in the game, but he doesn't call it out. You don't notice it, but when you're playing, you do much better as a good guy than you do as an evil guy, and good has so many advantages over evil that you're inspired to do that, to think good thoughts, and that was one of Gary's subtle agendas for the whole game.
Why was that? Why?
Well, he was a Jehovah's Witness, and that's the way his life was like that. He believed that good always conquers evil.
And he said you could only pick good characters. When I rolled up my first character, well, you choose one of these kind of goods. You didn't have options other than that I remember.
Yeah, but how old were you? You were 10?
He was 10.
Yeah, well, Gary's just being smart. Like, what'd you do today, little Andrew? He's 10 years old. I made a chaotic evil assassin. Probably not the best PR.
Yeah, really. That's right. He was all about expanding the brand in the beginning.
Yeah, I just would like to say that Prometheus matters. I don't care about
Prometheus matters?
Prometheus matters.
Yes.
Chaos matters.
Not evil, not good, not any lives. Just Prometheus matters.
There we go.
Well, that's his viewpoint, isn't it?
That's his viewpoint.
Yeah.
And that's why Levi is neutral. He kind of looks at it as both, two sides of the coin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of wish fulfillment, when you guys created the Barbarian, when you read through it initially, all of the Unearthed Arcane, I think is where it's at, where it's got all the. He seems very overpowered as a character type. Yeah. So how long did it take you guys to realize? Because I understand Andrew and I were talking that later editions sort of defanged it a little bit.
Calmed him down, yeah.
So how long did it take you guys to realize that is what was happening?
Oh, probably a year or two of role playing, because what are our examples? Our examples are Conan the Barbarian. And his style of play. So that's Gary didn't write that Barbarian. Zeb Cook wrote the Barbarian. Gary was a little better with rules than Zeb was.
Whenever I have to play a one shot, like if I go to like a convention or anything like that, I always ask, can I play Gary's write-up of Conan from 81? And they'll be like, well, it's this level. And Gary basically made a Conan for each sort of age level. And that is the most fun character to play the Gary's Conan.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You always get to strike first. You're never surprised.
There we go.
That looks good, Walt.
Nice.
That is cool. Is that the Shadow Dragon?
I have no idea. You tell me.
I have no idea.
Whatever it is, it looks awesome.
Oh, am I being too loud? Sorry.
Yeah, it is after midnight.
Well,
maybe
it's 1:30 here.
Maybe you should put a mic on there, buddy.
All right.
It's a big space, and I got a big mouth.
You haven't hardly said anything all night.
No, I'm working. I'm getting all the characters ready. We start at sunrise, so we start
wow.
4.5 hours.
What's the first game?
The first game is what was called the sequel to Barrier Peaks, which was a very famous module Gary made. So this one is called Beyond the Barrier Peaks.
Oh yeah.
About exploring what happens after you discover that there's more parts of the lost starship.
Dun 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 dun.
So
I
is
drew
that
56 levels in 1980 after it was published, after the Origins show, and so Gary found that very interesting and made a lot of notes for me, and started running around with my notebook with all the deck plates that I had built out.
Cool.
all right? That's amazing looking though, Walt.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I used to be talented.
So what was your first character, Andrew?
The first one I rolled up with Gary was a Ranger Thief, and he joined the people at Gary's when I went over there with my dad, and we got down a couple of levels, which was pretty cool, but as Jim warned, sassiness does not pay. They all got destroyed, and I ran away. We had captured a bandolier of potions, which I was carrying with me.
Ooh.
And knowing nothing about how potions work, I think I only had, what was it? It wasn't Cinderella. It was the other one where you see the potion drank in the Disney film that we probably saw in
Alice in Wonderland.
in the early, no, it was from the early 70s. I should have thought of Alice, but I didn't. And so I drank one, and it did a very lackluster thing. And I ran into a room with a giant pool of water. And I got in the water to hide, and this large orb came out of the ceiling. It turned out to be a beholder. I didn't know what that was. Gary was very happy. All the other players were very happy because they were all dead. And so I drank the second potion, and he turned me to stone as Gary happily explained what happened to me with the miscability table. I've
Yeah.
never done that, and I've
There
never
we go.
done 2 potions in a row.
He was just wonderful at making things to hurt you.
So that was June of '76.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, good times.
It was. It was very fun.
What was your first character, JR?
I played a fighter for 3.5 and rolled really, really low on the intelligence. So he was the pick things up, put things down kind of guy.
Did you use the accent?
I did at the table, but that was the one where I was asked not to come back to the table because they heard I was in the military, and that must mean I fill in the blank whatever political agenda, which was not right, but whatever. I could use better friends, so
That's terrible.
I ended up switching from that, and then I found you and started bugging you about games, and here we are.
Here we are.
And here we are.
Oh, I take that back. And between that table and playing with you guys, I did a couple of sessions of the D&D 5e at a local gaming shop where it was the Adventurers League. And just the way they put so many restrictions on the Adventurers League, it just kind of sucked some of the fun out of it, the creativity. So we just didn't go back, my son and I.
Yeah, 5e.
As Sartre said, hell is other people. Walt,
Yeah.
what was your first?
Oh
Character.
God, it was so bad, and you know, my first character was started much like JR, started as a fighter, and then later on we had Unearthed Arcana came out, and I was like, I need to be a cavalier. So
I don't blame you.
I became a cavalier, and then when I didn't get the weapons I want, I started bribing the GM.
Bribing them how? Go
It
on.
always works.
I was buying them lunch.
Yeah, of course.
And
Sandy.
every time I wanted something, I was just like, "Look, hook me up, and I'll buy you lunch."
I bought many a pizza for Gary.
And Rothman, what was your character?
Believe it or not, it was actually a wizard.
Ooh,
Uh-huh.
So,
I believe
started
it.
off as a wizard. Yep.
And how far did you make it with that?
I think I made it to like level 7 or 8 before my memory fades after that. But it was mostly with the neighborhood kids. So never found anyone outside of my immediate radar that played. So we only had a limited audience. So
There we
So
go.
how did Gary take if you tried to get creative to interact with the environment? So say, I don't know, you're in the basement of a bar, so there's stacks of beer casks and you're getting attacked. Would he let you do something like, I don't know, destroy one of the supports so the barrels all fall on somebody, something like that?
He would let us do that, and then he'd have the lantern break in the ale, and we'd all burn to death.
Okay, fair enough.
Good times.
Yeah, good time. Exactly right. Exactly.
At least you'll die drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Jim, your first character got killed after a couple of minutes, right?
He did 15 minutes. He lasted. The natives of Kong Island threw spears at his back and killed him dead. But Ernie rose him up with a wish. It's amazing that Ernie and Luke's wishes almost always worked perfectly, and everybody else's wishes hardly ever worked at all.
Well, you got to be a good dad.
You got to be a good dad.
Nick, what was yours? Was the half ogre, right?
No, my first character, is always with the proverbial cousin who teaches you D&D, and I got to play about an hour, and then it was time to go home. So I had like a fighter magic user, and then I never saw that character again. I don't know what happened to him. Then I walked into a game shop and I played a fighter, and I died after about 15 minutes when I got eaten by a minotaur. My first meaningful character was a paladin.
Oh wow!
So if the person that teaches you D&D is your cousin, then I expect a decent Christmas gift there, James. Cousin.
Yeah, that's not happening. Paladins are about the toughest characters to play, because you got to be strict on their lawful goodness, and that bends a lot of people the wrong way.
So when did the anti-paladin come about?
Okay, and I refuse to talk about anti-paladins because I don't believe them. I don't want them.
Okay.
I don't think they should exist.
Why? What is your problem with them? They're just a villain.
No, they're not just a villain. The paladin is a paladin because of his faith.
Right.
All right. Well, that anti-paladin guy doesn't have faith because he worships / follows evil characters, hardly ever deities.
So if they followed evil deities, would they still qualify as a paladin, just an evil one?
Yeah. See, and again,
like Asmodeus. Yeah. If I'm suddenly the paladin for Asmodeus.
Yeah. Okay. And so then I have to ask you. Okay, Levi. Let's say you're the paladin for Asmodeus. All right. Can you turn undead?
I can.
I would assume he'd be able to control them like an evil cleric.
I just want a yes or no, Levi. Michael, can you turn undead?
Sure, why not?
Because you're evil, and undead don't bow to your will. Can you heal yourself?
Sure. I mean, think about it. The evil characters like a lich or whatever can heal themselves. I mean, these monsters can do that. So why wouldn't they player character?
And anti-paladin, key in on that word anti. So everything a paladin can do, you can't do.
Or your motivations are the opposite of what a paladin's.
Well, I'll give you different powers as an evil anti-paladin, but I won't let you heal. I won't let you have your own sphere of goodness / evil around you. I won't give you a horse as a god gift. I won't even let a god gift you. They're the antithesis. They're the opposite. It's like being Bizarro from Superman.
Now,
they're kind of like Prometheus when you think about it.
So what would you view the opposite of a paladin to be then?
Prometheus.
Yeah, see, I just deliberately don't think of it because I want to avoid it, and I don't let it happen in my game.
How about this question? Okay. So you're inventing a new module for basically old school D&D.
Okay.
OSR and everything like that. Now's your chance to invent another character class.
Yeah.
What would you invent?
Well, I do some kind of a missile character class for sure, because it's really needed. Somebody that can do it all, can do darts and crossbows and arrows and bolas, anything thrown that character can do. That's definitely needed in my mind.
Okay.
And I'd also probably do like a spiritualist that can play with undead, not control them necessarily, but know where they are and what they're thinking, and how to attack them. Some kind of spiritualist who's really good dealing with undead in both a good and a bad way.
So like for instance, a cleric traditionally would be, of the alignment of his deity, right?
That is correct.
But why couldn't you have a cleric for Asmodeus? Why couldn't you have a
No,
cleric
Asmodeus does have clerics, absolutely.
And so I'm just
See, but you don't get the same powers. Demon and devil worship in AD&D doesn't give you the same clerical abilities that any other deity gives you.
So, like for instance, necromancy is kind of like the flip side of what a typical cleric would be. Yeah.
I would say I would agree with that. I think it's a little bit more than that.
Right. Because you have access to certain spells that they don't otherwise, but they do have healing. Or theoretically they should.
Well, it's not healing; they're transferring energy.
Yeah.
There we go.
Specialist necromancer uses spell capacity to be able to bypass traditional healing and find routes of getting stuff. It's usually negative material type things.
Yep, exactly. Plus, he does really well on the negative material plane when he walks around there.
So I mean, to me, it becomes the outcome is the same. Like for instance, if a paladin, or the anti-cleric or whatever we want to call it, they don't necessarily have the same healing spell as a normal good cleric or neutral cleric or whatever, but the net effect is the same. The source of the healing, so to speak, might be different.
Yeah, okay, but I solved that problem by saying no.
Now, what's your opinion on the Death Knight?
Oh, I have no problem at all with that boy. He's wonderful.
Oh, I got to tell you, I mean, as far as like being in the army and you're looking for something extra to read, and there really wasn't a lot for fantasy at that point, but they came out with Dragonlance, and I was like, all right, this is okay, this is pretty good. And then they came out with the Ravenloft novels.
Yes.
And they
great stuff.
They brought Lord Soth to Ravenloft, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah, I loved it too, but that was blasted Tracy and Margaret. They mutated him into a tragic figure. Yeah. Instead of being totally evil, totally dedicated towards harming everything, oh no, he had someone he loved, and the love went away, and that crushed his heart and turned him black. Give me a break.
But isn't evil just essentially a different point of view on a value system? You still think you're doing good, but others think you're not, and so you don't ever see yourself as evil. You see yourself as a paladin of virtue, but you might be slaughtering people for a good reason in your mind.
I don't quite agree with that, sir. I beg to differ. Something happened to you in your life that really hurt you, and it turned you against life, made you anti-life.
Oh yeah, or no, that would be 100% correct. But in your mind, you're looking at it as righteous retribution.
This is philosophically, this is one of the major disconnects between past generations and the current generations and thinkers and things like that, is the sort of rationalization that evil is just a different point of view, whereas the older generations, and for much of our history, and the reality too is, if you actually interact with real life, you will find actual evil people.
Yeah,
that truly, like there was a great study done, one of the big schools, where they classified evil, and they classified about 20 different versions of evil people. And I think what originally D&D was trying to say is evil isn't necessarily just a POV. There are certain people that are like, when you look at what chaotic evil really is, these are people that aren't trying to make the world a better place.
Right.
They're bringing about destruction. If they're lawful evil, they're a death cult. If they're chaotic evil, they're a serial killer.
Right. No, but if you look at like Hitler as an example of a real world example, I'm sure he never saw himself as evil, but we would.
No, he absolutely
Yeah.
saw himself as evil.
You think so?
Like, oh yeah, he was like the things that the witchcraft that he was into, his hatred for everybody. He would like I knew somebody that actually knew a person who knew Hitler, and they said when that friend of mine asked that other person who was a young man when he knew Hitler, and he said, tell me one thing about Hitler that no one knows. And the guy thought about it for a long time, and he said, well, Hitler liked to laugh. Like that was one of his favorite things to do. And he's like, oh, that's interesting. He's like, Hitler always laughed at the misfortunes of other people. Like if someone fell down or anything like that, that made him laugh.
That's a little twisted.
He was a diabolically evil person. But like I've met a couple of people like in the military who were just flat out evil. Like super evil. And you can sometimes sometimes around the homeless you'll meet people who are pretty evil too, and things like that, and sometimes in crime. But no, it's evil. Postmodernism would like to come in, or even humanism would like to come in and tell us that evil is a POV, and that's one of our biggest disconnects right now. We would actually be much more served if we went back to a very black and white view of the world.
Orcs and Drow aren't evil. Oh my God! When does it stop? They're doing more and more changes to the game. Soon it's not going to be D&D anymore. It's going to be some kind of philosophical mess.
So are they moving to Drows not being evil?
Oh, absolutely. That's a flat out thing. They've just started changing. Really? Products so the Drow aren't evil.
Come on.
There are evil Drow, but there are good Drow too. They're lawful good Drow.
Well, you always had Drizzt, who was the unusual.
Gary's presentation on Drizzt was, you bet. He's the only Drow in the universe that's good because he's totally insane.
Yes. Yes.
I thought that was a different take. Bob Salvatore didn't like that take, but too bad for Bob.
Yeah. Well, okay, so historically, do you think the Mongols were just pursuing good? Like, if you actually look and study the Mongol conquest of Central Asia, there's zero good about that.
No, I know. I think they're bloodthirsty.
Yeah. So there are, and I think that's the orcs are basically Mongols. There's nothing good about them. There's no redeeming quality. Culturally, you'll always have exceptions to the rules. It's not a rule unless you have a Drizzt.
What's interesting is, if you think about the kind of things that we write as authors, even though if you ever show the evil side of a POV, let's say oftentimes the POV, the machinations of the evil folk in the story aren't necessarily shown, but if you do, you always show it as kind of they have their own crazy motivations. They believe they're doing good, but we write stories from the point of view of the good, because even though you might want to root for evil in a concept, that's not I don't think anyone writes a story worshiping Hitler as an example. It's like it's not a selling story.
There have been a few authors who actually, they've done well doing that. The weeping executioner, basically, or the weeping There have been people. It's a very popular thing to do, and especially for TV writing now, to go ahead and do the sympathy for the devil story arc. But I'm just saying, culturally and things like that, one of the biggest problems, it's super easy to do that. It's super easy to take the known and turn it and say, hey, here's Zoran and here's Lord of the Rings from his perspective. And I've done it, I've done it in some of my writing, but I think the harder thing to do is to do what Tolkien actually did and make good and evil and tell the struggle of good.
Sure.
Evil's pretty empty. Evil's pretty vacuous.
But
evil's not that interesting.
But also having the purely virtuous is very unrealistic as well. So
and that's the other thing too, is if you play the game of he's not like Darth Vader. He's not really evil. He was just forced to be evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not really any. You didn't really write an evil character. You wrote a cursed character.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But like, really sit down like that. Like in acting circles, the rumor is the Joker is a cursed role.
Right.
And people, even Jack Nicholson, when he heard Heath Ledger died, he said that's not a character you mess around with, because that character is a bottomless well of evil. There's nothing redeeming in it. You get in a lot of trouble when you play with it. Sit down and try to write evil. You won't have a good time.
No. Yeah, it's a cracked viewpoint on everything. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to, like, if you can understand evil, you got problems.
But not at Wizards, because they don't have evil anymore.
No one's evil anymore.
Because their Tyrannosaurus Rexes don't eat meat.
So here's the great question about for next time. We had a viewer a couple of weeks ago win a contest, and he mentioned something about an Umber Hulk. Are we going to be seeing one of those coming up?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
You won't like it, but with you guys' saving throws, I probably won't get one of you. I got all 8 when I had my Umber Hulk. All 8 players were paralyzed, and naturally the Umber Hulk ate them all. But they were so irritated because they'd stood in line for a couple hours to get in the game, and they were really happy to get their characters. And I said, all you have to do is survive the glare of the Umber Hulk. No, didn't make it. No, didn't make it. No, didn't make it. I just couldn't believe that all 8 failed their saves. So they were all dead.
So if you really want to take out a party, what's the thing that you carry in your back pocket, which is like your slacker whacker?
Beholder.
No, Beholder's okay, but I think Medusas are better.
Really?
The lovely woman is singing in the tent, and you can see her beautiful, curvaceous figure in the light of her lanterns. And
Prometheus lights the tent on fire.
No, because it's a really nice tent, and you want to talk to this person, and you go in there, and she's hooded, and naturally you get nice and close because she's got a great figure. Oh my goodness, she's good looking. And then her hood drops down, and you see 10 horrible poisonous snakes, which Gary has killed me with several times. I won't look at the Medusa, but I will take swings at it, and so Gary has the snakes bite you and poison you to death. But yeah, no, I like the Medusa for killing things. Cockatrice is really good too.
Right on. How about you, Andrew? What do you have in your back pocket as your beat the party stick?
Hard to have a beat the party stick as much as it is. I was not a fan of some of the alterations in Arcana when it came out, so I made a foil class against Cavaliers. Are called Battleiers, and there's a much more limited number of them, and they were heavily magicked to be able to basically take out higher level essentials that the character members would report to, and so these creatures could go around and wipe out those high level things.
Nice, I'm writing that down.
Nice.
Battleiers they were a very effective tool.
Now, Nick, did you ever run games?
I ran one once just for the thrill of it, and I think I was so bad at it that everybody ended up like 4th or 5th or 6th level.
I see.
Like in the first session, I was just like,
"Oh, that's not good. That is not good." Yeah.
I was like maybe about like 13.
Yeah. So, Walt, what's your go-to monster?
Ooh, never a monster. It's always if I want to really like sabotage a party, I use an NPC that the characters trust.
Oh yeah, I do that too.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like build up that trust over 4 or 5 levels. This is my guy. Every time we need, pulling out of the fire, he's there with with a parachute and a net. It's all good, and then all of a sudden they turn and it's like, but that was our guy.
Yeah,
but there was a very special gem I wanted out of that.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I've had many a gorgeous woman in chains in my towers, and the party grabs her and saves her, and like 5 episodes later, she turns into a demon or a devil.
Oh yeah, I mean, I always think back on Samson and Delilah.
Oh, sure.
You know, just that but that blatant betrayal. You know, get close and cut the hair. So yeah, that's my favorite. I love twisting the knife like that.
But I think you got good sex out of the deal.
I never had any hair, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I see.
So on that note, should we start rolling in the carpets and oiling the swords? Because
if you'd like,
we're looking at a little over an hour and a half, and it's I know it's $1:47 in the morning on my side, and I think I'm keeping the dog up.
Does the Twitch group have any last words?
Yeah, let's see. Let's give him a second to chime in. Felix was saying that good villains and stories are the heroes of their own story from earlier. Elpa Sojef, I think I said that right. Oh, El Paso Jeff. Duh. God, my Italian's showing.
El Paso Jeff, that's
right?
great.
He's saying that this has been an excellent discussion. Storycaster has thrown in a lot of stuff about good nature of evil and good foil for the paladin as a vampire and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they've been throwing some stuff out there. So a lot. We've had people coming and going, but a good group of 5 that have been hanging out. Felix the Swift is once again saying, James, he's still holding out hope for the total team kill.
It's harder and harder to kill them, but not impossible.
Yeah, you got one. You took out our monk, so hopefully.
No, I took out the cleric.
I mean the cleric. That's right. So yeah, you took out the cleric. So hopefully, when we have our triple guest stars coming in, hopefully they'll keep us from getting slaughtered.
So does Arlen come back as a level 4 or level 6 or how?
He's a new character, so he starts at level 4.
All right.
That's what happens. I mean, just first of all, starting over first level is amazing and not usually done. So I'm being super nice there.
Nice.
You're laughing at me, Andrew?
I am. Nice is always an anguish term.
I probably shouldn't use that term. I'm sorry, but
I'm
being nice.
I was lamenting in chat because I was thinking about this whole conversation, and where my head went was, I think creating things like I came up with years ago was mostly because either I wasn't original enough or I was weakening the brand by railroading in a way. It felt like cheating. I don't know. Or as I'm thinking about it now, based on the conversations we've had, I wonder. It's making me want to survey my older players and say, okay, the things that we thought of as the primary, and I thought of them as evil, and I really did think this was a game of good versus evil. You're trying to win in a way, or trying for the good guys to win, however it comes out. But I wonder if what my ultimate result is have I watered things down because I'm not sure if I can see that definition anymore.
Yeah, that's the big question. I ask that all the time. Yeah, so, I do.
I worry about that. I'm always impressed with your game because getting into it as a group, and I don't want to keep us here too long. Getting into it, I really plan for packing it in. What strategies can I do, knowing that there are enough surprises that can outwit me? And so that's just it's a different point of view.
There we go. So Walt, you want to hit the big click on the button there, buddy?
I love the big click. Just want to say thanks for folks coming out and hanging out with us for D&D After Dark. Don't forget, check out GaryCon with Autumn Revel, which is going on all this weekend. Andrews, do you still have a couple of slots left?
I do. I think in 2 of the campaigns there's a ticket left, or 1 or 2 left in stuff. But we make room for people so that they can play.
I'm going to try and scoop up into that Sunday morning slot, I think.
You'd have fun. It's bonkers, but you'd have fun.
Right on. And then
Sci-fi writer, you know how to shoot lasers.
I know how to shoot most things, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view.
Yeah, there we go.
And
get the feature.
So we'll catch you next time on Sci-Fi Writers playing old school D&D After Dark.